Quiet down, please. Good morning and welcome to today's New York City Council hearing for the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. At this time, we ask that you please silence all electronic devices, and at no time are you to approach the dais. If you would like to sign up for in-person testimony or have any other questions throughout the hearing, please see one of the Sergeant at Arms. Chair, we're ready to begin.
Good morning and thank you. What's that? Ready? Good? Okay, good morning and thank you for joining today's hearing of the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. My name is Sylvina Brooks Powers and I am the chair of this committee. Today's oversight topic is evaluating the Department of Design and Construction's implementation of the design build process. In addition, we will be hearing resolution number 886, which is sponsored by Councilmember Lee, and would call on the New York State Legislature to introduce and pass, and the New York State Governor to sign, legislation to grant permanent and expanded design build authority to all New York City agencies. The Department of Design and Construction is the city's primary capital construction manager and builds many of the city's civic facilities, including firehouses, libraries, and police precincts. Working with more than 20 other city agencies, DDC designs and improves vital infrastructure throughout the city. In 2019, the New York State Legislature passed the Public Works Investment Act, which authorized DDC and other capital agencies in the city to use design build as a project build method. Design build is one of the fastest growing and most commonly used project delivery methods in the United States and has become widely used in both the private and public sector, including building construction, transportation, water, and wastewater markets. It combines two usually separate services into a single contract, allowing owners to administer a single fixed fee contract for planning services and construction. This use of a single contract helps streamline the process and allows for more efficient project delivery. According to the DDC, Design Build has allowed the agency to complete public projects faster and more efficiently through emphasis of collaboration, efficiency, and risk reduction. Moreover, it allows DDC to prioritize design, qualifications, and experience, with an emphasis on best value when selecting project vendors. As a result, in February 2025, the Mayor's Office and DDC announced that the city anticipates saving a combined total of 50 years of project time and $1.4 billion thanks to the use of design build on 42 capital projects. Currently, DDC is managing 22 projects within the design build portfolio with an estimated cost of $14.2 billion. These projects include 4 infrastructure projects, 9 public building projects, and 9 projects that are a part of the borough-based jails program. For DOT, there are 4 projects in its current design build portfolio totaling $400 million, including 3 projects within the Division of Bridges and 1 ferry terminal project. Overall, design build can potentially reduce construction costs and delays for city capital projects. As the city's leading construction management agency, DDC stands to gain from design build project delivery benefits. At today's hearing, the committee hopes to receive an update on how DDC is implementing design build into its capital projects and how it is improving its construction, contracting, and construction processes. The committee will also discuss how design build compares to other project delivery processes and whether or not expanding the use of design build will improve the city's ability to manage and build out city infrastructure projects in an efficient and timely manner. Before we begin, I would like to thank my staff and committee staff for their hard work. Kevin Katowski, Senior Policy Analyst, John Basile, Senior Policy Analyst, Mark Chen, Senior Counsel to the Committee, Adrian Drapal, Senior Financial Analyst, Julian Martin, my Policy and Budget Director, and Renee Taylor, my Chief of Staff. I will now ask the committee counsel to swear in the administration, but first I'd like to acknowledge that we're joined by my colleague, Councilmember Mercedes Narcisse.
Thank you. I'm Mark Chen, Counsel to the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. Our next panel will be from the Department of Design and Construction and the Department of Transportation. DDC Commissioner Thomas Foley, DDC Associate Commissioner E.V. McEvely, DOT Deputy Commissioner Paul Ochoa, and DOT Director of Design and Procurement Planning, Dawn Harrison. I will now administer the oath. Please raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee and to respond honestly to council member questions?
I do.
Thank you. You may begin when ready.
All good to start?
Yep.
Good morning, Chair Brooks Powers and members of the committee. I am Thomas Foley, Commissioner of New York City's Department of Design and Construction, and I'm very pleased to be here today to discuss our very successful and growing design-build program. Joining me at the table today is E.V. McEvely, our Assistant Commissioner who manages the alternate delivery program, and our colleagues from New York City's Department of Transportation. To help explain and visualize some of the contracting and construction ideas that we're going to discuss, I'm happy to share a slide presentation that I will then narrate. For an overview of what design build is and how we fought for the right to use it. The ability to use design build has been granted to us and other city agency in a piecemeal fashion by Albany, first in 2018 for the Borough-Based Jails program, then in 2019 with a wider usage was authorized under the Public Works Investment Act. Just a few months ago, we received clearance to use another form of design build called progressive design build for resiliency infrastructure projects. Under the traditional system of lowest bidder contracting, also known as design bid build, we contract with a designer. It's one procurement period. Then, once the design is complete, which could take several years depending on the scope of the project, we stop everything, put pencils down, and engage in a really other lengthy procurement period to hire a contractor whose main qualification is that they submitted the lowest bid. No construction, not even site preparation of something simple like a foundation excavation, can begin at the project site until the contractor is on board and ready to mobilize. Once the contractor is on board, they have to deliver on a design that they have no input in creating. There's essentially a wall between the designer and the contractor. They are two separate business entities with no incentive to work together, to innovate, or to problem solve. This inevitably leads to conflict. When an unexpected condition arises, which happens almost every project, every single day, 7 days a week, the contractor and the designer blame each other, and we as the city, as the owner, are left to negotiate between the two and sort out the pieces. Under design build, the designer and the contractor partner together as one team in a common business relationship. They work together from the start of the design process to innovate and make sure the design is buildable, while problem solving when issues arise in the field. And because everyone's on board at the same time working on the same schedule, we can start the work before the design is even finished. This shows a typical lowest bidder timeline versus design build timeline. Everything in the low bidder process is linear. One phase of the project has to be completed before we could start the next. With design build, what we often call alternate delivery, there's a better planning at the start of the project and phases of the project can overlap. Another benefit of design build is the ability to select a team on the basis of best value as opposed to just the lowest bid. We're also able to weigh factors related to the team's ability to achieve disaggregated MWB goals of 30% for both design and construction. Now, when we receive bids, we have to hope that the lowest one is the one from a good contractor who we want to work with. The fact is that some are better than others. but the lowest bidder doesn't allow us to effectively evaluate companies on that basis. As long as the bidder meets some minimal qualification and has the lowest bid, we're required by law to give them the contract. With design build, there's so much more planning before the work starts, including qualification process, the creation of a short list of typically 3 qualified teams, followed by an RFP that those qualified teams can respond to and be evaluated on. This gives us so much more flexibility to select the teams that can create the best projects for the people of New York. We don't have to just pick based on the basis of the lowest price. We pick the team that offers the best value for the taxpayers with a track record of delivering. Because of the appropriately large amount of prep and evaluation that goes into the design build selection process, we have limited resource to deploy design build. So then we have to ask, which projects are ideal for design build? Ideally, we'd have a project that is well defined and agreed upon on the scope from the beginning, since the team is going to be moving very quickly once they're under contract. And of course, we prioritize projects that are on tight timelines with high demand. On the other hand, there are some projects that are more difficult for design build. Renovation projects without a clean slate don't suit design build, nor do projects without a defined end user scope. They need to acquire property to complete the project, or lengthy pre-approval process with outside timelines and entities can also be extremely challenging. I discussed earlier the legislative history of design build in city government. Since we started, we hit some significant milestones, including the completion of the nationally recognized Queens Garage behind Borough Hall for DOT, the city's first ever design build project. It was completed in 2023 in just 22 months. Less than half the time we would have done it with the lowest bidder contractor. That was at 44% MWB usage. Just a few months ago, we completed a maintenance center for parks at Orchard Beach, actually another PDC award winner where we saved 2.5 years. And for each of these projects, we estimate a 10% cost savings. I'm very proud to announce that we have a successful and growing program with the potential to completely transform how the city builds. Outside of the jails program, we have 14 ongoing projects. This is the award-winning Orchard Beach Maintenance Operations Building, funded by Parks that I mentioned. It was substantially complete this April with a time savings of 2.5 years versus the lowest bidder contracting, with a cost savings of almost $3.5 million. Our design MWB on Orchard was 61%. The construction was at 31%. Purely revolutionary. The $141 million Shirley Chisholm Rec Center in Brooklyn was designed by world-renowned design firm Studio Gang. It was substantially completed it will be substantially completed next month on July 27th, 2.9 years faster than what would have been possible before. This is a picture of the pool at the bottom right, which will be filled in the next few weeks. And all of these inserts, you'll see a rendering and then also a depiction of where we are. The pool on the previous slide for Shirley Chisholm was designed by the same architects that had designed the pool in Paris for the Olympics. Imagine that. The Rockaway operational headquarters we're building for Parks in Queens is on track to be completed 1 years faster than design build. The Mary Carey Rec Center on the North Shore of Staten Island, there it is a $92 million project that will be completed over 3 years faster. The Marlborough Agriculture Education Center in Brooklyn is on track to be completed 1.5 years faster. Beautiful, beautiful building. And the $128 million Brownsville Multi-Service Center is scheduled to be completed 2.3 years faster. And on Lexington Avenue, adjacent to Grand Central, our first design-build infrastructure project is trimming an estimated 3 years off of its schedule using design-build. We continue to expand our program and have recently issued a notice to proceed, what we call an NTP, to the design builder for the new Roy Wilkins Rec Center in St. Albans, and that's a rendering there. Also, for the creation of 6 parks restrooms, including Brookville Park, which traditionally have been very difficult to construct under the city's contract and procurement rules. I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope that you see the promise that design build holds for the future of city construction. After years of advocacy to secure the right to use design build, DDC has aggressively applied it in a way that has us on track for numerous successes. We plan to keep going. This is just the beginning. And as I mentioned, it has been nothing short of revolutionary. On a personal note, at the beginning of 2025, I was honored to be named chair of the National Board of Directors of the Design Build Institute of America, also known as DBIA. Richard is here from DBIA, and we're grateful for partnering with them for following best practices, not only in New York, but throughout the country. So thank you. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. Also, we have been joined by Minority Leader Ariola and Councilmember Chris Banks. Again, thank you for the testimony. I know you are a big proponent for the design build model, and I'm often in private asking you questions about it, just wanting to learn more in terms of, how you see it working out, and, wanting to do a hearing, especially in light of media coverage that has shown how a lot of our projects in the city in particular are often delayed and as a result have a higher cost. I also, as it's been indicated in your presentation, have about 2 of those design build projects currently in my district, and also wanting to know the status of that, as well as the status of the borough-based jails and where we are with that as well. So where I'll start is design build is one of the fastest growing project delivery methods in the United States and has become widely utilized in both private and public sector, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, to streamline building construction, transportation, water and wastewater projects. When DDC generates a short list of the most qualified proposers eligible to participate in the request for proposals phase, how does it rank the statements of qualifications?
So there's, so from a procurement standpoint, I'll start and then I'll kick it over to my colleague and friend Evie McEvely. There is, so we put out what we call an RFQ, request for qualifications. The vendors, the teams, which are made up of the contractor, designer, subcontractors, they then, as one team, one entity, they will submit to us a statement of qualifications. We've been very, very fortunate because of the contract terms that we have on our ability to collaborate, to share in risk, that we've been having very, very robust responses for all of our design build procurements. There's been literally over a dozen or so that have been submitting on each of these proposals. The team, a cross-section of our team, then evaluates the proposals and then shortlists it to 3 teams who are then submitted an RFP. But there's a very robust review from a procurement standpoint for this analysis, both from a design, constructability, schedule, budget, time factors. So our team of licensed professional engineers and architects review along with our team at ODIR to review each of the teams and then to shortlist as best practices to the three that will then be engaged with during the RFP process.
Thank you for that. And on average, what percentage of proposers who provide a statement of qualification are added to DDC's shortlist of firms eligible to participate in the RFP phase?
Sure, so I can answer that question. The way that, as Commissioner Foley explained, that the RFQ process works is that DDC would shortlist to the 3 top qualified vendors. So it's not based on a percentage, or the percentage would really be dependent on the number of SOQs or qualification statements that we received per project. but we would always be shortlisting 3 vendors to move forward in our procurements.
Thank you for that. What are some common reasons a proposer would not be eligible to participate in the RFP phase?
I would say that it's not really that they would not be eligible to participate. It's just that the RFP goes to the top 3 teams that were deemed to be the most highly qualified based on the evaluation criteria that we set forth in the request for qualifications.
Understood. Now, firms that were not eligible for the request for qualification list from the first part of the procurement process are given the opportunity to partner with the design build teams on the DDC list. How often does that occur, and could you provide the committee with some examples of the kinds of work and projects that these firms do receive?
So we do not have an on-call contract. We don't have an on-call list of firms that we work within our design build program. Each and every one of these projects has a separate, including our borough-based jails, has a separate procurement for each and every project. So there's new teams that are coming to the table. What has been extremely refreshing is that there's vendors that previously have not worked in the public sector, and now they are. Now that could be because of industry, as far as what's been happening from private residential, what have you. But I firmly believe that it's Evie McEvely's leadership, that it's our contract terms, that we're bringing vendors who would never otherwise work for the city, participating in this open and very transparent procurement process.
Okay, and I'm going to apologize in advance because I'm going to jump around a little bit with the questions. I also want to acknowledge that we've been joined by Councilmember Linda Lee, who will in a moment give a statement regarding her legislation. I want to touch on borough-based jails briefly. So notably, DDC is making use of the design build for one of the largest projects, the borough-based jails program. As part of the city's plan to close the jails on Rikers Island, DDC will be employing design build to construct smaller jails in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx. Can you please provide the committee with an update on the borough-based jails program?
Sure. As per the testimony, we were authorized, right, as if we're in kindergarten up in Albany, but we were authorized to use design build starting in 2019, and it has transformed our ability to deliver small and large complex projects, and that's certainly indicated from our early works on our borough-based jails. The city's first design build project, Queens Garage and Community Center, was completed in 22 months, a $60+ million project with an MWB percentage at 44% over at Queens Garage. So quite staggering. That was completed. The other early works that we had was the Brooklyn Prep, was the Brooklyn Dismantle, the Bronx Prep. So, or any of the early works that we did, we performed those dismantles using our design build. Those are all completed. And the overall percentage of our MWBE on our borough-based jails, what we call the early works, is at 51%. 51% MWBE usage for our early works. Basically for the 4 large jail contracts have all been registered. Manhattan was recently registered on May 31st. All the other works are in progress. We are working 2 shifts in Brooklyn right now, and the work is, as you could see if you're going by Atlantic Avenue, it's literally rising out of the ground. 250 union workers are there on a daily basis. So we're really excited about the progress in Brooklyn, and we look forward to breaking ground in the Bronx and Queens within this year, and then a year from now in Manhattan. But literally, as the design is moving forward, I think one of the, these amazing benefits of design build is that our contractors are working with the designers. And literally, as the design is evolving, they're breaking ground, working on foundations while the design continues in parallel. They could then pivot based upon market conditions, based upon tariffs and supply chain issues. And this has been an amazing collaborative effort between the city's team collectively with the vendors that we're teaming with.
Why is design build being used for these programs, and has implementation of design build, well, I guess you already feel like it's been successful, but more so, why is the design build model being used for the borough-based jails?
Quite frankly, because it's efficient, it's quick, it saves time, it saves money. If we were to build the borough-based jails using design bid build, they would not be complete until after 2045.
Is DDC providing outreach to the communities adjacent to the borough-based jails?
Yes, we have round the clock whenever the contractor is working the 2 shifts. Over in Brooklyn, we have a site, we have a storefront right on Atlantic Avenue. We have full-time construction liaisons. They're present in all of the sites, and obviously during the dismantle as well. In our Lower Manhattan office, we have several community liaisons. We call them CCLs, that are engaged with the community. Robust outreach, monthly meetings, daily notifications. Where we also have translation services, and our CCLs speak multiple languages as needed, or whether that's Mandarin, Cantonese, English, Spanish, depending on the geographical location of the jail.
DDC is awarding separate design build contracts for each of the 4 jail facilities, resulting in a total of 9 contracts. Can you please provide us with some details on each of the contracts?
Absolutely. I know there's various consortiums, teams that are involved, but within the Brooklyn site, it's HOK Tuda-Perini. For the Queens, it's Dematis Construction, local contractor. For the Bronx, it is Sweet Construction, also with Siami. That's working up in the Bronx. And for Manhattan, it's Tuda-Perini, O&G, and HOK. And then we can also provide a list of all those contractors and vendors that have been working on the what we would call the early works. And again, the early works MW percentages was at 51%. So it's really bringing a lot of teams to the table that historically would not have been provided that opportunity.
Thank you. And it'd be good if you can send the full list so we can see it. That'd be amazing. When does DDC anticipate completing each borough-based jail?
Starting in 2029, that we hope and expect that Brooklyn will be open. It'll be Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, and then Manhattan. Manhattan was recently registered. That design is literally starting as we speak. There's some early works that are happening in Manhattan, so that'll be completed after 2030.
So to be clear, Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens will be 2029, and Manhattan will be 2030?
Manhattan will be after 2030. Brooklyn is 2029. Queens and Bronx are 2030. And at this point, we're looking at 2031 for Manhattan.
Thank you. I'm going to pause my questions to allow Councilmember Lee to give an opening on her legislation we're hearing today, and then she'll be followed with an opening statement from the Department of Transportation.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Sorry, I feel like it's kind of a moot point because we're already talking about a lot of the positives that we're seeing around design build, but I wanted to emphasize the reason why I sort of wanted to put this bill forward is because I remember meeting with you, Commissioner, when we were going through the tour of the borough-based jail, but as someone who, I know this is not the same context at all, but as someone who ran a nonprofit that received capital funding from the city, we were awarded funds in 2017, had it repurposed in 2018, and they still have not started. And what that does for groups that are trying to provide services on the ground is that the costs don't decrease, they just keep increasing. The amount stays flat. And so what we're left with is just having to reduce the scope and paying more, or paying more out of pocket, which is why I did so many golf fundraisers and events that I didn't think I would have to do. But it was to raise extra money so that we could afford to actually build out a senior center, right? So, and not only that, but in conversations I've had with other folks along the way, you know, and I think all of us as council members have experienced how long it takes sometimes with certain projects with parks or other city agencies that we want to accomplish in our district. And so this idea really came from, you know, what was on the state level, but also, you know, what we're seeing in the community around saving dollars, cost savings, and how much money that could save city taxpayer dollars, to be quite honest, as well as time. And I also had conversations with some of the labor unions, and I just out of curiosity asked them, you know, what do you guys think of design build? What are your thoughts on it? And they said, you know, we're absolutely for it, because what ends up happening is that there's so much money that ends up being put into the project on the upfront side. And then so by the time the workers in the labor unions actually complete the project on the back end, the money gets decreased, or they get the short end of the stick at the end of the day. And so we're also not doing right by a lot of our labor union workers that are really putting a lot of time and energy and effort into the projects. And I just wanted to end by quickly saying that, and you can obviously correct me if I'm wrong on this, but since the state first gave a handful of agencies limited design build authority, the city has shaved 50 years of combined project time and $1.4 billion in costs across 42 projects, with about 10% savings on each project of those 42. Another 46 projects are already in the pipeline because the pilot was so successful. And so we really wanted to urge all the city agencies to be allowed to utilize this if they wanted to, right? And to have that option to be able to utilize design build. And so I look forward to just continuing listening to the answers to the questions. And thank you so much, Chair, for hearing this bill and for allowing me to say something. So thank you.
Of course. DOT.
Madam Chair, thank you so much. I promise my testimony will be a little shorter than my commissioner's typical testimony. Good morning, Chair Brooks Powers and members of the Committee of Transportation and Infrastructure. I'm Paul Ochoa, Executive Deputy Commissioner at the New York City Department of Transportation, and I'm joined by Don Harrison, Director of Design Build, Procurement and Planning in our Bridges Division. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on behalf of Mayor Adams and Commissioner Rodriguez on DOT's use of design build. I'm going to skip a little bit, but
Paul,
aside from
is your mic on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Just move it a little closer.
I'm just going to get a little closer. Do you want me to restart it, or are we good? Okay. So aside from the projects that DDC mentioned is delivering for DOT, which we're very excited about, for streets, pedestrian ramps, and facilities, the agency is also managing several projects using this innovative delivery tool. In our Bridges Division, the team is currently advancing its first 3 design-build projects. This includes the replacement of 4 Belt Parkway bridges in Brooklyn and the replacement of 2 bridges over the Metro North Railroad at East 183rd Street and East 188th Street in the Bronx, which are both federally funded, as well as renovations to the 191st Street pedestrian tunnel in Manhattan. These projects follow a best value approach to ensure that the city receives the highest quality through an efficient and transparent process. To support these efforts, DOT has engaged an owner's representative to provide procurement support and post-award quality assurance for the agency. These projects will be done in close coordination with the New York State Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration, since I mentioned they were federally funded. This ensures the alignment with oversight requirements and national best practices. In our Ferries Division, we have a design-build project to flood-proof several of our facilities and enhance climate resilience at Whitehall Terminal, St. George Terminal, and the ferry maintenance facility by implementing a combination of dry and wet flood-proofing measures, including barriers, watertight doors, check valves, and equipment elevation for protection. These measures are designed to safeguard critical infrastructure and assets, including electrical, mechanical, and computerized systems vital to the operations and maintenance of the Staten Island Ferry. We're working to wrap up procurement and anticipate beginning work in the first quarter of 2026. In conclusion, design build has the potential to improve how we deliver major infrastructure projects at the New York City Department of Transportation by streamlining processes, encouraging innovation, as Commissioner Foley mentioned, and delivering projects faster. Thank you again for this opportunity to testify today, and we now welcome any questions.
Thank you for that. Picking back up on some of the general questions we have. So, according to DDC, Design Build allows the agency to complete public projects faster and more efficiently through collaboration, efficiency, and risk reduction. Can you please elaborate on how the collaboration process is streamlined and specifically how risk reduction is achieved?
Sure. So the nature of design build, it's inherent that the designer and the builder are working together because they work as one team and they form a partnership even before the project begins. And so from day one, when the contract is awarded, they're working together to develop the schedule, develop design, and then move into construction. And because it's one team, we have construction expertise during design and design expertise during construction.
Thank you. When we look at DOT's design build portfolio, for DOT, there are 4 projects in its current design build portfolio with a total estimated budget of $400 million, including 3 projects within the Division of Bridges, which is $355 million, and 1 ferry terminal project, which is $45 million. Why was design build used for these projects? And has it been successful in terms of project delivery and MWBE participation?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Madam Chair. So our projects are a little different than what DDC has undertaken in design build. Typically, our projects, the projects that we're looking at are federally funded, which require some different oversights. We also call a lot of these projects horizontal projects, which, unlike the vertical projects, again, just come with a bit more unknowns in terms of what is underground, for example. The reason why we are implementing these projects is for the exact same reason the DDC mentioned. We do think it's a very efficient way of delivering projects. We do think it's going to deliver them faster. We haven't completed a design build project yet. I mentioned we expect to break ground on our ferry project in 2026, but we expect the same types of efficiency gains that DDC and Commissioner Foley and it's Commissioner Evie mentioned in terms of time savings and potentially money savings. But I can't give you an exact answer yet of how much time and money we've saved because they're still underway.
And so the next question was going to be, what is the status of the project? So none of them have started just yet.
No, they're in different phases of design, procurement, and almost ready to break ground. I can kick it over to Director Dawn Harrison to talk about the bridge projects. But one thing I do want to mention, Chair, and I think Commissioner DDC alluded to this, is we also hope this reduces change orders. I think you and I have discussed change orders in the past in other hearings, and the whole purpose of the designers working with the construction companies together is so that we avoid these hiccups along the way when maybe the designer, created something and designed something that the actual construction companies can't actually implement. So we actually think that the change order reduction is another huge plus of design build. So let me kick it over.
And I'm sorry, Dawn, one moment. But is that to be projected? Because since you haven't seen it yet, so this is the anticipation and hope.
That's
okay.
right.
Sorry, Dawn.
Do you want to run through the?
If the council would like to hear it, we can give you a brief update on the bridge projects in terms of where we stand, right? So the Belt Shore Parkway project, we have completed the shortlist process, and we are anticipating releasing our draft RFP soon, which would be, really spring of this year, 2025, with an anticipated NTP in spring of 2026. For the Metro North Railroad project at East 183rd and East 188th Street, we are anticipating releasing the RFQ in the summer of this year, summer of 2025, with an anticipated NTP in fall of 2026. And then for the tunnel project at East 191st Street, that really is technically still in its preliminary design phase. And so we do not have an anticipated really procurement schedule for that yet. We are still working with MTA to sort of sort out and finalize the scope and maintenance requirements there. But we'll, as that progresses, we'll be able to give you a more detailed update.
Thank you for that. I'm gonna pause my questions briefly because I know Councilmember Narcisse has questions.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the panels that's here doing your work. And I do appreciate the presentation. I get all excited. I'm just like a kid in the candy store when I see a nice, beautiful rec center, and I know the problem that we're facing in New York City with our youth not having a place to go and delivering this and beautiful, and I am so grateful for that. So I want to say thank you. Some of the questions I've been going through back and forth. What specific challenges has the DDC faced in implementing design-build processing for transportation projects? Is funding a concern? How does the DDC prioritize projects for the design-build approach? I have a few questions. Can I continue getting my question? Thank you.
So I'll try to answer the first part of your question, which was related to challenges on transportation design-build projects. So we have 3 that we have awarded to date. And one of the challenges that we're seeing is that, the problems that any capital project would face still exist on design-build. Design-build is just a project delivery method, but there are external factors that we can't get around, just because of the delivery method. So anything that involves third-party interference, whether that's working with the private utilities or obtaining permits that are out of our control, are just still challenges that we're seeing with design-builds.
And sorry, Councilmember, I'll also add, in addition to what the Assistant Commissioner was saying, was on our infrastructure program, this will be a game changer. It's literally peeling away the onion, what we say for the infrastructure work, peeling away the asphalt, seeing what's underground, that spaghetti western of all the private utilities that are there, along with our DEP, sewers, water mains, trunk water mains, street lighting, everything else that's involved with that. What we need, the tool that we need in order to be successful for all of our underground work, several billion-dollar capital plan, is joint bidding. And as we speak in Albany, we've had this successfully for 21 years. We've been using joint bidding since we worked in and around the World Trade Center, now citywide. It's been very, very successful. Saved the city over $100 million a year. And rather than getting a 10-year extension up in Albany, there's talk now that it will just be a 1 year, just like last year. And so I don't know why. It's obviously extremely frustrating as engineers and as architects and designers. We need the tools in order to succeed. And it appears as though that's in question now. So that will be a huge impact on our capital program. A year from now, I'll be putting up my right hand and saying that the city just lost, hundreds of millions of dollars.
I got that. Since my time is limited, how does the DDC prioritize projects for design-build approach?
How do we prioritize? So we look at the obviously every project that we have goes through our front-end planning. We have our SWAT team of engineers and architects that look at it. If it's a new build, in the sense of a new building, a new rec center, like a Shirley Chisholm rec center, we would be putting that on our path for design build. If it was renovation, then we would be looking at another, like CM build, different delivery methods depending on the scope of the job.
Okay. I have a problem right now in Bayview houses, right? The building is done, very nice, but now we have a lot of problem dealing with this because it was poorly built. I can say that much. What measures are in place to ensure the quality of construction after the project is completed and contractors have left? They're gone, right? How long is the warranty period for design build projects and what does it cover? Who is responsible for addressing structural issues or defects that arise after the project is completed? What is the process for reporting and resolving problems with a building after the project is handed over? Are there penalties for contractors if significant issues are discovered after the project is finished? How does the DDC ensure that contractors adhere to quality standards during and after construction? And what role does DDC play in monitoring the long-term performance of completed projects? I know it's a lot, but I'm willing to listen.
I don't know the specific project. If it was a DDC one, then obviously love to chat. But
Bayview Houses.
Okay.
One center. We don't have many going on, and especially in Canarsie part. But that one is closed right now. So that's the reason I arise with all those questions, because I want to know what's going on, because everyone been passing the buck. This person tell me, that person tell me, and then in the meanwhile, summer is about to rise, and my children don't have no place to go.
So as far as each and every one of our projects is managed by a professional engineer, licensed architect internally. We then, this is during the course of the project. We also have our separate oversights internally as far as our site safety team that manages and inspects each and every one of our 550 active projects throughout the city that DDC manages. On top of that, we also have what we call commissioning. Prior to the substantial completion of a project, it is then evaluated again by a third party. Everything is then inspected. Systems are turned on, inspected, watertight, from a facility standpoint, HVAC and all that magical stuff. We also coordinate with our colleagues at the DOB for sign-offs by an independent professional engineer on each and every project. As far as the warranty is concerned, it's 18 months after the project is completed, depending on the system. However, if there are any structural concerns on a project, I don't care if it was built 10 years ago. If it was a DDC project, we go after them, and we meet with the law department, and we sue them.
I have a structural problem.
Then they should be sued. 100%. That is unacceptable, and the law department and whatever city agency, obviously coordinating with them to go after any of the structural concerns, because there's no warranty on that. I'm a professional engineer. So if I'm designing something today, it better last 40, 50 years from now.
And in Marine Park as well, I have a structural problem.
Right.
And I've been dealing with it ever since I got in office. And the seniors are all the time in and out. So I don't continue, because I know my chair probably gonna kick me out. So what I'm saying, I'm gonna follow up with you, and I do appreciate that. In the meanwhile, I'm looking forward to put another design in my district, and I'm hoping for the best, to work together, to collaborate together, to have a building, even where I'm gone, that the building, people can use it. It should not be closed after we spend so much money to address the problem that we're dealing with the youth in our community, and yet the structure is a nice structure, but yet you cannot use it. That's unacceptable because the city money. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I just want to actually piggyback on Councilmember Narcise's question, and also hearing like there's no warranty and it would require a lawsuit. How is that kind of taken into account as well? Because now it's the city that would be, I would imagine, going after the contractors for the faulty work. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And is in the contracts that are signed that initiates the design build, there is no clause or anything in terms of how the city can avoid having to sue them if there are structural issues?
So on any of our active projects or completed projects, there's only one project that I'm familiar with that was completed 10 years ago that had any structural concerns, and we're currently working with Corp Counsel for mitigation measures to be done there. We have professional engineers, as I mentioned, on each and every project. We also have our chief engineers that will evaluate any, during the course of construction. So I'm not aware of any. If there was something to arise, then obviously it would be dealt with extremely swiftly, proactively, and in the court of law. I'm not familiar with the specific project that the council member, but I will be.
Correct, and I know you'll follow up with her on that. I'm just concerned about like what's included in the contract that protects the city's investment in these design build projects. And is this a difference between design build versus a regular project where they would have a warranty in that versus not? And going back to my earlier question about risk, is this creating a different layer of risk for the city?
Thank you. It does not create any additional risk. In fact, it's the opposite. It creates the collaboration. It creates innovation. Any of the, if there was an issue to arise, such as an existing environmental, geotechnical issues with the existing conditions in the ground, it's comes up during the design phase, and they're able to pivot immediately. And we've had a couple of cases of that. Rather than the job stopping, they're actually working together, and the professional engineers and modifying the design, modifying the foundation to account for some of that. But as far as the oversights are the same. From a site safety perspective, from any of the measures that were done from an auditing standpoint, commissioning, there's no difference in how we evaluate that building and that process, whether it's design bid build, whether it's design build or CM build. The contractors have a responsibility, and we, as obviously as engineers and architects, this is something that we monitor and we sign off on, along with our colleagues at DOB and others. So there's no added risk with this alternate delivery method.
And I'm sorry, just for clarity for me, because I'm still trying to wrap my mind, in terms of a non-design build project, do those, does that type of work include a warranty?
Yes, they both include warranties.
So the project build does too?
Design
build, excuse me.
A project in design build has the same warranty as one in design bid build, correct?
Okay. And so so the project that you spoke of with Councilmember Narcisse, that and I know you have to get more details on that project, that it may not have a warranty. Is it because you think that it may be an expired warranty?
I'm not familiar with the project, and we'll certainly find out before we leave the room.
Okay. And if you could keep me posted, because again, I just want to understand the...
I'm sorry, sorry, council members, that's a NYCHA project, not a DDC project.
And the one in the park?
Yeah.
The one in Marine Park? And how is that? Talking to me. Told me that's not bad.
Talking to
The one in Marine Park? Malone Center?
The team will review, but I'm not familiar with that. I know that the one.
It's not, wait. Let me be correct on that one. Just give me a second. I think I'm confusing that one with,
All right, well,
Chair,
we'll let...
If I may, I think Commissioner hit it right in the head. There is no difference between design build.
Kamaikaro, sorry. The Kamaikaro if you're talking about Marine Park, is Kamaikaro. The one in Bayview, it's Bayview Community Center.
And while you're checking on that, I want to acknowledge
Not
that...
DDC, we'll figure out what my team believes it's a NYCHA facility, NYCHA building.
No, I'm talking about Marine Park.
Okay.
It's different. We're talking about two centers that give me problem.
I want to acknowledge that we've been joined by Councilmember Rivera as well. Commissioner, has DDC made any institutional changes to processes or systems in order to accommodate design build? And if so, what are they?
So one of the approaches that we've changed, we have as to my right is Evie McEverly. She's our Assistant Commissioner for Alternate Delivery, and she leads the team for design build and for alternate delivery. This is one of the lessons learned that we've had. We were having a number of different project managers manage a design build project along with design bid build. It's two different contracts. And so we recognized that that was a challenge from a staffing perspective. Also that mindset as far as that shift of how we are working with the teams. So there's a number of national reports out about how public owners, such as myself, such as DDC, how we would effectively manage these jobs. And we implemented those changes a year and a half ago, and they've been very, very successful. So that's one of the things that we looked at under the microscope. We're always evolving, always changing, always meeting with the industry to find out what we're doing right, but even more importantly, what we're doing wrong. And this is one of the changes, and Evie's been leading the way.
Thank you. I'm going to pause with my questions and allow Councilmember Banks to ask his.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess I'll ask a question for Mercedes, but I'll do that at the end of my questions. The administration, along with the council, made a historic investment of $160 million into the Brownsville Recreation Center. And I would be remiss today if I didn't ask, because that's obviously the elephant in the room in the 42nd Council District. When is this project going to begin, and if there's any design plans that the community can be privy to? So I want to know if there's any update that you can provide to the residents of the 42nd Council District.
Sure. So the Brownsville Recreation Center, which is a parks project, that is currently in our front-end planning process. It's in the phase 2, which we're looking at risk assessment, understanding the schedule, ensuring we have enough budget. So I believe it would be in that phase for another 2 months or so.
Another 2 months or so. And when it comes to community input, we obviously look forward to working with you and the Parks Department and all the other agencies and making sure that the community is kept abreast as to what's going on step by step, because every day we get calls from seniors who use that center and the young folks who have used that center for years to find out what's going on with it. And obviously, it is Brownsville, it's the border of Brownsville and Eastern New York, so we need our recreational spaces, and obviously we need them to be state of the art. Let me also now dive into some other general questions. Is the public being fairly and meaningfully engaged throughout the design build process? And specifically, have there been any changes in how public input is gathered or incorporated, especially for large-scale transportation and infrastructure projects?
So I would say from DDC's standpoint that yes, we've certainly had the lessons learned as far as the community engagement. It's so important of how that drives the design. What are those things that we're looking for? On a normal project, design, bid, build, we would be working with the designer over the course of 3 or 4 years to get that community input. Okay. Here we really need that on the front end. Because we cannot sit at the design table for 4 years and then bid a contract out. We have to get these projects done. And so that has been a shift, and we've been doing extremely well with our colleagues, both at DOT, at Parks Department, and others, to then have that community, have that input early on in the process for what are those deliverables? What do they want in that rec center? What do they want on that plaza project or whatever? So that has been, that's been a shift for us and a welcome one, and it's been working.
Okay. And what accountability measures are in place to track whether the design build model is actually delivering on its promises, like saving time and reducing costs? And are there regular evaluations, reports, or performance reviews being done? And how does the public or the council access that information?
Sure. So our design build program, right, we started issuing contract awards in 2022, so we're 3 years in, and this year we're seeing the completion of our first 2 pilot projects. So already we can say, right, with Orchard Beach Maintenance and Operations Pavilion, we're saving several years off of that because 3 years in and we already have a complete building.
Okay. And this is, I guess we're going to go back to the Bayview Community Center. As chair of the Public Housing Committee, obviously, it's a concern for me as well. Initially, when that particular center was designed, we want to know what role did your particular agency play in designing that center. We do know it is a NYCHA property, but we want to know what role did you play in it, or if any.
I don't believe that project is with us. We've only done 3 projects within NYCHA campus. Everything else is covered under NYCHA. But we could certainly have a chat after.
Yeah,
that.
if you can do, if you've done the research, or if you can do the research to take a deeper dive into that to see, because obviously it's been an ongoing issue, and I believe the center has been closed for quite some time, which has been denying a lot of the young folks opportunity to have a recreational space. And we know that's a NYCHA development, and we know it's badly needed. So if we can get some clarity on what role your particular agency played in it, we'll greatly appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I want to say thank you, but for parks, when a design done inside the park, is usually parks, or you have anything to do with any design within the parks?
That would be the Parks Department.
Totally parks.
Yes. If there's anything with regards to a rec center, so they have a capital program, but any large projects over $20 million or so, that falls under, they then call us up, or
That's over $20 million.
they would then transfer that project to us.
So therefore, it would be you that I can ask for the parks one, the one inside the park, because you're doing the one for Shirley Chisholm right now.
We're doing the one for Shirley Chisholm,
That's
correct?
inside the park.
Yes, inside the park, yes, but there's I thought you meant like other playground equipment, things like that. The smaller scope, they do themselves.
No, I'm talking about the center, the rec center.
Yes, then
itself.
we historically do the rec centers for Parks Department, or at
Okay.
least recently have started that.
So therefore, the one in Marine Park, Kamaikaro, probably is going to be, so I need your help. Basically, I need help to make sure those centers are being used. It's
That
not that I'm
sounds-
being aggressive towards you. I'm just like, I want some answers because everybody just passing the buck on me, and I don't like that. I get frustrated. You know, the nursing part of me.
Sure.
I just want to get things done.
Sounds great. We look forward to, if we're going to be in charge of that job,
All
give
right.
us the money and we'll move on it. Absolutely.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. I think Councilmember Rivera has remarks.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the chair for your leadership, because I've really been interested in what design build implications are and how we've benefited as a city. And so to have it laid out like this has been tremendously helpful. And I just want to thank this panel, because it's been a pleasure working with you all. Specifically, I know that there aren't a ton of design build examples here in my district, but specifically working with Commissioner Foley on East River Park and Murphy Brothers and the southern part of the park and the bathrooms there, they're quite nice. They're really interesting, and they're like solar powered, and it's been a journey, and it's been fun. So I just want to thank you for your professionalism and responsiveness, and for your time today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'm going to pivot to MWBE participation. Commissioner Paul, you know how I feel about this topic, so I'm going to just go ahead and delve in. So as chair of this committee, I've advocated for a more equitable transportation and infrastructure system in the city. So I would next like to discuss MWB participation as it pertains to the design-build process. The PWIA of 2019, which granted city agencies the ability to award design-build contracts, also requires the city provide additional opportunities for minority and women-owned businesses. How is DDC providing additional opportunities for MWBEs?
So there are a few strategies that DDC is currently undertaking to increase MWBE participation on design build contracts. One is that we can count any tier of subcontractors. On design bid build projects, you can only count the first tier of contractors that you have a contract with. On design build, you can count any level of, so if you have a contractor, but if they have a subcontractor that is an MWBE, you can kind of optimize the participation there, and also suppliers count towards a certain percentage of participation. On design build contracts, we are also able to count both state and city certified MWBEs. And finally, I would say that, well, there are a few other things. One is that we also split the goal so that it is 30% on both the design phase and 30% on construction. It's not on the overall contract. So we're ensuring participation on professional services as well as construction services. And then I would say, because of the design build process is kind of evolving in terms of the timeline, like the timeline is very fluid, the design builder is able to engage with additional MWBE firms as the project proceeds, so closer to the time of work. So there are many layers of opportunity that we're seeing.
And also an area that I see MWBEs often impacted by, especially when they are in the role of a subcontract, because they're not in direct contract with the city. They are then beholden to the prime, paying them on time, and if anything comes up that has the prime in a bad light in the comptroller's office, or the admin decides, well, we're not gonna pay the prime, the sub, which may be doing everything right and everything it's supposed to do, won't get paid. How does DDC, whether through design build or any other method that you use, how does the agency work to like inoculate and protect MWBEs from falling victim to that? Because I know that my office has worked with the admin on a particular situation where there was a contract and the MWBE did not, unfortunately, get paid timely, which resulted in dealing with the employment board, and there was a lot of damage done to that business as a result, both in terms of reputational damage. It trickled down to the workers that work for them. People lost their homes over it. So they are the least protected, and oftentimes we find in these contract opportunities, bless you, the minority businesses are often the subs and not often the prime, so they are at risk in that regard. So how has the agency been able to protect MBEs in that way?
So we take our relationships extremely seriously, those that have partnered with us, regardless if it's a design bid build or a design build project. In design build, we know who those team members are because it's part of the proposal. On design bid build, it's a low bid, and then we find out months after about who specifically is on their team. That being said, each and every project we monitor payments. Right now, our average is 31 days to pay vendors upon approved invoice, which is very good. We're streamlining that as well. We have a new payment process that actually went live this morning, so we're really excited about that. And our outreach, I know that we have incredible outreach. I'm joined today by our Executive Deputy Commissioner Maggie Austin, who holds and chairs regular meetings with me as far as our advisory board hearing. Our advisory boards, MWB advisory boards, meeting quarterly, and any vendor that has not been paid on time, they contact Maggie directly because of her reputation and her, certainly meeting with all the vendors, not only at these advisory meetings, but also with industry engagement and things like that. So, this is something that we're very cognizant of. We continue to monitor to make sure that everybody is getting paid, and when the primes are paid, that they're obviously paying their subs immediately. There are cases where we're contacted directly by those subs. It's something that we take seriously and we act on it right away.
And DDC currently has 22 projects in its design build portfolio. How many of those projects have contracted with MWBEs, and how many design build contracts have been awarded in total by DDC?
I would just say it's a large number. We'll certainly get that for you. Overall, we're as I mentioned, for our MWB on our borough-based jails early works, it's 51%, which is a staggering number. It's the highest in the country and one of the largest programs in the country in any for any city government. With regards to our, we continue to strive for 30% design, 30% construction, MWB on our design and our construction, obviously, contracts. We have a bunch of information we would love to share with the chair and with the members, and we'll get that out to you this week, specifically as far as each job where we are. But great gains, and it's this is an ongoing dialogue that we're having. Not just me, but there's a whole team behind me that engages with the vendors. This is something that we have on our, literally when we're meeting on a biweekly basis, we're always talking about their goals, how they're doing, how they're maintaining it, and that's just part of what we do.
And Chair, if I may, on that MWB payment question, we often, you're right, we often, we do from time to time hear MWB is not getting paid on a timely manner. We do work with the primes. If there is a issue with the payment where we think we are withholding payment or a percentage of the payment or a percentage of the invoice for valid reasons, we usually release the percentage that we agree with to make sure the payment goes through and that the subs can get paid. And then we can negotiate with the prime the remaining amounts for the invoices. So we work directly with the primes and the subs to make sure that they get paid appropriately.
Thank you for that.
I'm sorry, if I could just chime in
Sure.
to add to Commissioner Foley's response, is that we're really proud to say the last 2 design-build contracts were awarded to MWBE prime vendors. The first was Roy Wilkins Rec Center, which is $120 million in St. Albans, Queens.
And was it an M or a W?
That went to Triton Elite JV, and Elite Construction Company is an MBE.
Where are they based?
They are based in Jersey City.
They're based in Garden City, but formerly in Queens. As they grow, they moved to Nassau.
But they might come back to Queens now.
I would hope so.
And the second is the Public Restroom Building Bundle, which is a $23 million project that was awarded to Armand Corporation, which is a MWBE.
Where are they based? Thank you. How has DDC improved upon its MWB participation rate, and what type of outreach or training has been implemented to have higher participation rates? And I also want to thread in a side question I got from Councilmember Narcisse, which is, how is DDC setting up the MBEs that are at times subs to have an opportunity to become a prime?
So I think there's a couple things. I'll tie these in. So Evie and Maggie hold regularly scheduled industry days over in our main office, the old Chiclets factory in Queens, literally in the lobby, as far as meet and greets with the large vendors, MWBEs that are coming in so that they could meet with the primes and they know who ultimately to team with. And also, as Evie had indicated, the last 2 contracts, these are primes that have not did a significant amount of work with DDC before. They were in private MBEs, so we're really happy that they're coming into the fold because it's design build. It's a new contract, new way of doing things, and that collaboration and that they're coming in. The other really exciting thing that we've incorporated is that they're what we call Meet the Primes. So it's within 60 days? Within 30 days of contract registration, notice to proceed. The EV has it in the contracts now that that there's a requirements for the prime team members to have outreach into the communities in which we're building, to have new team members come on board, both from a labor perspective and then also subcontracting work as well. So that's something that we've it's worked really well at Shirley Chisholm Rec, and then we pivoted and used that as a model for each and every one of our design build projects going forward.
Thank you for that. And what type of MWBE participation rates are implemented in DDC's current projects? How does DDC encourage MWBEs to bid for specific projects? Because I know that's a task in itself. When I worked on the JFK redevelopment program and we were trying to get local minority businesses to apply, oftentimes we had to pick up the phone and call them. One, because the feedback was they get a lot of requests sent to them and they want to kind of pick what they would likely get or have a higher probability of being selected for. And then also just not wanting to deal with the city or government in general because of a lot of the, I guess, the red tape they feel that exists. And so I'm curious in terms of what has been best practices by DDC in encouraging MWBEs to bid for specific projects, and what other type of research. So I know you said that your team has been doing great things, but how are we getting it better? Because when I look at 30%, I hear agency has achieved 30% or got 31%. Not for nothing, yes, you have met the goal, but to me that's the floor, not the ceiling, and we should always be striving to go beyond that. And then what are the specific breakdowns for your major projects in terms of ethnicity, race, and gender?
So as far as the collaboration, right? It's just as in design build, there's obviously innovation, there's collaboration, trust, what have you. And one of the things that Maggie and her team have been working very, very closely with SBS for working and highlighting vendors for a certain scope of work to be, and meeting with the design build teams to highlight, who could provide that railing, who could provide those painting services that are a local MBE, and then the disparity within the disparity, we are tracking that as well, and we've highlighted in our contracts as far as a breakdown of the MWBE as far as what that disparity within the disparity is, and we could certainly share that information with the chair.
Yes? Good.
Yes, all good.
And I pause for a moment to allow Councilmember Narcisse.
What performance metrics are being used to track progress for DDC? What improvements has DDC made between 2019 and 24 in terms of performance, and what metrics support this? What metrics show a regression or worsening performance, and what does DDC plan to do to correct those trends, if any?
So I'll say that DDC's design build program is evolving. We're very much interested in lessons learned and improving with every contract. So there are things that we have changed in our contract. One of the things that I know you care about is related to quality of the product, and so we've increased the language regarding quality management plans, quality assurance and oversight. We have increased the scope of our owner's representative to include those services to support DDC staff. In terms of metrics, since the first projects are just now being completed this year, we're starting to see those now, but we do know from the face of it that the projects are being completed on a faster timeline with cost savings.
Thank you. I'm going to pivot to the DDC strategic blueprint, wanting to get a sense as to the status of the underground blueprint for citywide. I'm going to start with Councilmember Brewer's questions that she sent over, wanting to understand what the status is of the underground blueprint for citywide. So that's cable, water pipes, etc. Is it all up to date? Is DEP keeping the database current, and how does it impact the work of DDC?
I'm sorry, Councilmember Chair, the question was how we coordinate our underground work with DEP?
Excuse me. It is, what is the status of the underground blueprint for citywide? And in terms of the cable, water pipes, et cetera, is it up to date? And is DEP keeping the database current, and how does it impact DDC's work?
Yes, go ahead, Evie.
Oh,
I would say that would be 3D underground, Paul, you want to? Okay.
Yeah, I can take it. I believe Councilmember Brewer is talking about the Mayor's Office of Operations mapping of underground infrastructure. We are working with them on that. I don't think it's quite ready to be published, but I do know that DEP and DOT are working with them, and I believe the utilities as well, but I don't think it's quite ready for it to be published. I do not believe this is a DDC mapping project.
Okay. But going back to the strategic blueprint, in January 2019, DDC released a strategic blueprint for construction and excellence called the Strategic Blueprint, which provided its comprehensive plan to improve capital project delivery in New York City. In 2022 and 2024, DDC released updates to this blueprint to summarize how DDC is improving and working towards its overall goal to plan, design, and build a better New York City. Could you briefly explain the main points of the most recent 2024 update? So for example, how has the new advanced capital planning program data portal helped project delivery? How has DDC eased the design process and streamlined needed approvals? How is past performance being used to improve project delivery? How has DDC streamlined construction and built better communication between design and construction teams? And how has DDC supported and empowered their team to improve? And I'll repeat anything you need me to.
All good. I'd love to. I have my notes. Thank you, Chair. The blueprint has been, as in any organization, right, that has been our mantra. This is something that we track literally on a daily basis as far as the goals and how we're achieving those. So I'm really excited about the things that we laid out in 2024 to build better, faster, and cheaper. And we're achieving our goals in that regard. With it, as far as on those specific questions, ACP, Advanced Capital Planning, we recently received funds from ONB in the last turnaround, $1.5 million for a platform that's going to help us plan better as a city. So we're delighted with that our advocacy had traction. And then in the last, that we were also awarded some positions in order to fill for our advanced capital planning. This will change how the city designs and builds. As far as our design process, we're putting out a new round of on-call contracts, and we're streamlining our design approach. We're also laying out those expectations in a new and recently released design guideline. So we're really, really excited about that. On each one of our, as for evaluations, industry evaluations, each of our contractors and designers is evaluated on an annual basis. This then forms the basis of whether or not we renew contracts with these associated vendors, and this can be shared and will be shared with our colleagues in other city agencies. As far as streamlining construction, DDC ran a pilot a little over 3.5 years ago called EWA, Expanded Work Allowance. And then as we had saw out at Southeast Queens in our project there, that one project saved 1 year just with the EWA. The EWA is transforming our infrastructure and public buildings projects. It's basically registered contingency. DDC was running the pilot on this, and through our colleagues at the Mayor's Office and the Comptroller's Office, the EWA is now a standard tool to build better, faster, and cheaper with our colleagues at DOT, Parks, and DEP.
Thank you. Pivoting to project labor agreements for design build projects. The PWIA of 2019 also requires the city to utilize project labor agreements, also known as PLAs, which design-build subcontractors must comply with. Currently, there are 2 PLAs applicable to DDC's design-build projects: citywide design-build PLA for vertical work used by DDC and other city agencies, and design-build PLA, which applies only to 3 specific DDC horizontal infrastructure projects. Could you explain the 2 current PLAs that are being used in DDC's design-build projects, and what does vertical and horizontal work entail?
Sure. So I wanted to add that we do have a citywide horizontal PLA that was signed earlier this year, I believe, or at the end of last year. Horizontal work entails often streetscape work, infrastructure, sewer work. Vertical work entails buildings or vertical structures. The vertical PLA we have will be renewed in the coming months.
What type of work rules are implemented under these PLAs, and do the PLAs reduce the administrative burden and costs on construction agencies? If so, how?
I don't have the detail on that. We could get back to you.
Okay. Okay, so you'll include it with the other stuff that you're following up on. Okay. And then, does DDC believe that design build should be expanded to all agencies?
Absolutely.
I kind of figured that was going to be your response. Well, those are all my questions. Thank you to both agencies for being present. Really excited to continue having conversations around this model. Oh, wait, I did forget. So in terms of Brookville Park, where are we now with the bathroom project?
Sure. So Brookville Park is being included as part of the public restroom building bundle of 6 public restroom buildings in total. We just awarded the contract just after Labor Day to a design builder, and they have 18 months to complete both design and construction of all 6 restrooms. So by the end of 2026 is when that restroom will be complete.
And that's a part of like my question also in terms of like the efficiency of it all, because that project I think has been fully funded for about 2 to 3 fiscal years now, and I thought that it would have been much further along the in the process. And with every day, like whether it's design build or not, the price of construction goes up, and so it's been over the course of several fiscal years. So I just want to know why has it taken so long to even get to where we are right now?
Chair, I can take this because I think I can speak from the agency side. Typically, when we take on projects or when we decide we want to take on projects, we go through a process called capital project initiation, which is done in-house at DOT. That project or that process can take anywhere from 6 months to maybe a year and a half. So it's actually not always DDC's fault. The projects take a bit longer. From your perspective and from the public's perspective, when we announce a project and when we fund a project, to the time it gets to DDC, it can be multiple years. So that is to say, I don't want to speak for parks and I don't want to put DDC in a weird spot, but it does take some time internally in agencies to put a project together for them to send it to DDC where they begin their design build process.
So let me ask this for just clarity, for my own clarity. When a council member fully funds a project, it is not guaranteed to just go at that point. It's on the agency internally to kind of prioritize which one goes next.
Well, when you fund a project and it's fully funded, typically the agency puts a package together where we do a little bit of design. We just don't send the money and then an idea to DDC. We talk internally to our sister agencies. We sometimes talk to utilities. We do some preliminary design work. We think about what we want in that project, whether we want a raised bike lane or a bus lane or extended sidewalks or whatever it may be. And then that process takes some time. And then we send the package or the CPI to DDC, where sometimes they go through their front-end planning unit to then determine what is the best way to deliver that project for the agency. So it doesn't happen automatically.
But when, it waits this long and then now it becomes a delta in terms of what was initially forecasted the cost to be, and now there's a shift. So I see this with SCA. There'll be times that they'll come back and it's a fully funded project, and they're like, oh, we're like $500,000, or $1 million short. Is it now the administration's responsibility to fill that gap? Because what happens is it comes back to the council member that has fully funded and has prioritized it. Because if we're fully funding a project, we're prioritizing it as needed, and we anticipate that it will be put in the pipeline. Because a lot of times members are putting money, like for me with the recreation center at Brookville Park, I'm putting money aside for that.
Yep.
So I know that that's not going anywhere right now. But for a playground for a school and it's fully funded, my expectation is that is moving. But what happens is, like you're saying, and I've seen this, is it's not prioritized by the agency, unfortunately. And then when it gets started or it's almost to completion, we're now on the hook for the gap.
Yeah, this does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. When we provide an estimate to the council or to the administration, it is an estimate. It is our, we can take a guess of how much a street reconstruction project may take in Manhattan, given historical sort of prices. But it is ultimately an estimate. Sometimes, we've seen projects that are, come in under budget, and some projects that come over budget because of some unforeseen conditions. But when we give you a number, it is our best estimate at that time. We tend to include cost escalators, just because this always happens. But I think I think the cases that you're talking about tend to be more about unforeseen conditions in the project that we just didn't account for, and not so much as normal inflation.
Well, is that the case in the Brookville Park? Is there things that came up that were unforeseen?
So with Brookville Park, just to be on the same page about the timeline, when we received the project initiation from the Parks Department, that was in early 2023. That went through the front-end planning process. And in that process, the team that Commissioner Foley mentioned of architects and engineers, they evaluated the project delivery method and the schedule, and based off of that, they determined any escalation necessary. So there was not a concern of funding at that point, but DDC doesn't have the green light to start a project until we have what's called managing agency switch, and that's when the Parks Department officially kind of gives us the funding. That happened in the summer of 2023.
Why did it take so long? Because I believe it was funded in, it was for fiscal 23. We voted on the budget before June 30th of 22. So why did it take all the way till January for that initiation, and then in the summer to get to that next stage?
Well, right.
It
I
is
mean,
a
we
sister
can't,
agency,
DDC can't
so-
speak to what happened prior to us receiving the project initiation from our sponsor agency.
It doesn't sound, it does take about 6 to 9 months for us to put a package together, typically.
I know DOT is separate because you're looking holistically about other projects, but when there are things that are more siloed, like a bathroom in a park or a playground at a school or a library within a school, those type of things are more isolated and more straightforward. And so if it's fully funded and these are sister agencies, it's not like you're talking to external folks. DDC is doing the work for this city agency. One would think that there's a way to better streamline that process. And that's something that, if DDC hasn't looked at, should look at, because again, when we think about our terms here, most of us are here for 8 years, and a lot of my colleagues, and I have spoken about this, like, and even with our predecessors, we're cutting ribbons for their stuff, for projects that really don't take that long. And if it's fully funded, it should just get off the ground. And communities are looking forward to these new infrastructure investments that we are doing. And oftentimes when we do the announcement and then it's like 3-4 years, they come back to us like, you know, is this real? Because they don't see anything happening.
I would, I would just say that DDC as an authority, which you've been advocating for 3+ years, would blow up the system. It would streamline the process. We'd be able to build better, faster, cheaper. And that is, we continue to advocate. We'll continue to walk the halls in Albany and here at council. That will be a game changer. Just like design build is a game changer, DDC as an authority would change how the city builds and speed up the processes.
Thank you for that. So you're saying that also, just going back to your timeline with Brookville's bathroom, so we're in 2025 now. By 2026, early 2027, it should be constructed and complete?
That's correct.
Okay. And I don't know if you'll have this answer now, but it could be in the follow-up. I wanted to know how many projects are fully funded in the pipeline, how many out of those have been initiated, and how many will be completed this year?
We'll give you that information, but we do not start a project. We cannot start a project unless it is fully funded.
Right.
So everything in our pipeline is fully funded, and we'll share that information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Those are all the questions I have. Thank you again.
Thank you.
So, all right, we'll exit. Where's the?
You're probably like, what's up with this crazy guy?
I now open the hearing for public testimony. I remind members of the public that this is a government proceeding and that decorum shall be observed at all times. As such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recording or photography is allowed from the witness table. Further, members of the public may not present audio or video recordings as testimony, but may submit transcripts of such recordings to the Sergeant-at-Arms for inclusion in the hearing record. If you wish to speak at today's hearing, please fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant-at-Arms and wait to be recognized. When recognized, you will have 2 minutes to speak on today's hearing topics. Oversight evaluating DDC's implementation of design build processes, Reso 0886-2025, resolution calling on the New York State Legislature to introduce and pass the New York State Governor to sign legislation to grant permanent and expanded design build authority to all New York City agencies. If you have a written statement or additional written testimony you wish to submit for the record, please provide a copy of that testimony to the Sergeant-at-Arms. You may also email written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov within 72 hours of this hearing. Audio and video recordings will not be accepted. I'll now call the first panel, which will be Richard Thomas and Christopher Leon Johnson. You could begin when you're ready. Just turn on the microphone.
Members of the committee, Chair Brooks Powers, my name is Richard Thomas, and I serve as Director of State and Local Government Affairs for the Design Build Institute of America. DBIA is the nation's leading authority on design build. We define and teach best practices rooted in research and real-world application, an approach we call design build done right. Our rapidly growing network of nearly 20,000 members and certified professionals spans industry and the public sector. These leaders know firsthand the challenges of delivering critical infrastructure efficiently and effectively. Design Build is the fastest growing alternative delivery method in the country, representing 44% of all construction spending. FMI, a leading consulting analyst focused on the built environment, forecasts that by 2028, that will be 50% of the market. Owners across the country are choosing Design Build for its proven advantages, which have been validated by extensive research. Design Build leads to faster delivery, fewer change orders, lower overall cost growth, higher quality outcomes, and greater innovation. Passage of the PWIA and New York City's rollout of alternative deliveries like Design Build has really been a game changer, both for the city's infrastructure and the local design and construction industry. DDC's Design Build program continues to expand, delivering tangible, real-world results, high-performance projects that meet or exceed expectations on time, on budget, and with reduced risk. Few cities can match what DDC has achieved in such a short period of time with the resources you've provided. Under Commissioner Tom Foley's leadership, New York now manages one of the largest and most effective municipal design build programs in the country. Actually, I would say, bar none, it is the most efficient program in the country now. It's become a model for others across the country, prioritizing best practices, investing in training, developing innovative procedures, and proactively engaging small and underutilized firms through a nationally recognized outreach. I urge the council to continue to support DDC's Design Build program and expand the tools available to integrate construction expertise earlier in the process, enhancing cost control, reducing project delivery times, and mitigating risk. Design Build will remain a critically important part of the city's procurement toolbox for years to come. Permanent, expanded Design Build authority is essential to maintaining this momentum and ensuring Design Build can continue delivering on its projects for the communities it depends on. Thank you for your time, and I'm
Thank
stand
you,
for
and I just had a
questions.
few questions to follow up. So what other major cities are using Design Build right now?
Well, I think New York City's peers, obviously Los Angeles County, and all of your major cities. Certainly Seattle does a lot of Design Build. But to give you an idea, I mean, since 2019, the portfolio you're dealing with is larger than what some states do. This has been a bold plan that they've gone along with, and they're following through on it. And I think most importantly, what I think has happened here in New York City is really building the whole team. I mean, you're seeing training that's being done, best practices. I'll be honest, some cities, they kind of pay lip service to that. New York City is really taking that to heart. They take it serious, and I think we're seeing the results of that.
And you mentioned in terms of some additional tools. What additional tools do you think that DDC should consider to further this effort?
Well, I think having full progressive Design Build. I think especially every project that is done in the city, by definition, is complicated. I mean, a lot of cities don't have to deal with the number of stakeholders that you have to deal with. So, obviously big projects are going to be more complicated, but even the small projects here in the city, because of all the stakeholders, the communities you deal with, add complications to that. And I really think progressive is probably the best suited for that, and also for mitigating the risks.
Thank you for that. Chris?
Hello, Chair Powers. My name is Christopher Leon Johnson. I'm here to call on the DDC to jump into the Deliveries to Hub's situation. They're supposed to be Deliveries to Hub outside City Hall.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I said hello. My name is Christopher Leon Johnson, and I'm calling on the DDC to jump into the Deliveries to Hub project that's outside City Hall, because I have a big feeling that the DDC is really powerful in the city of New York. They know a lot of architects and developers, and they should be able to help out in bringing this home before this mayor leaves the city. This mayor leaves this office. I know I can't be political. It's been approved by LPC. It's been approved by the city council. It's been approved by the land use commission. Why is not getting built outside City Hall? Like I said, I'm calling on design the DDC to jump in this thing, like the last minute help. They should jump in, because this could help drive it home. And one more thing about MWBEs is that my thing is that I think you, the chair, should push for more percentage of how many the contracts. Instead of being 25% mandated by law, it should be at least half of the contract. It should be at least 50%. 25% is not enough, and the problem is that they don't get a lot of money, and they always get controlled by the big company. And the problem is that they should have their own independence, because I used to work on MTA Eastside Access. I used to work for Ally Universal, and the company that was working with us, Johnson Security, they always got controlled by Ally Universal. So they should have their own independence when they get these contracts. They shouldn't just get a contract. I understand the money's there, but they should get a contract and get controlled by a contractor that's not their color. So that's all I gotta say, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If we inadvertently missed anyone and you wish to testify, please fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant at Arms. If you are online, please use the raise hand function. Hearing none, we will now close out this hearing. Thank you for all those who testified today.